Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the show. It's been a while. I have been a little bit MIA, but not really. I'm back. I'm back from a different country. That's why I was a little silent the past few weeks. I moved to back to Switzerland, back to home. And yeah, it's exciting to be here. It's after now 9 years, second time living in the US. I've been now living in the US like 25% of my life, which is crazy. So been there over 10 years, and yeah, I'm back to my roots, and honestly it feels really good. It feels good to be here. I feel much more grounded and it's beautiful, and yeah, feels good. Switzerland, I don't know if I mentioned it. I I was born in Switzerland and lived here for 75% of my life, and 25% of my life I lived in the US, and I am back, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to stay here. Unless I will, you know, feel like I need a new adventure, but I don't think so. It's been an adventure to be there, to live there. Over there, it's part of my life, and I want to keep that connection as well. So make sure you stay in touch with me. I really do want to stay in touch with you. It's been, yeah, really, really amazing time. I met so many amazing people, but now it was just time for a new chapter of my life. And as you can see, I'm starting other new things here. So the podcast is now available also as video. If you want, I will upload that on YouTube. I will put the link in the show notes so you can watch it if you want on YouTube, or you can listen to it here. So what I want to talk about today is two things. I want to talk about Mercury retrograde, which we're out of Mercury retrograde right now. About a week that we're out, or not even, it's a couple of days that we actually got out of Mercury retrograde. And I haven't talked about Mercury retrograde at all this time. And if you know me, I usually talk about it like a lot, like every day, the whole time. And so this time around, I made a little experiment. Well, for one, I was really busy moving. International move is no joke, but I intentionally didn't talk about it because I want to do this. I wanted to do this experiment and see what it makes, because I had talked to people and everybody would tell me, or not everybody, a lot of people would tell me, if you talk about it all the time, well, no wonder those things happen during Mercury retrograde. And if you were totally new to Mercury retrograde happens 3-4 times a year. When Mercury seems, if you look at the sky and if you see Mercury, and sometimes we can see Mercury, but we can't always see Mercury, right? But it looks like Mercury moves backwards during this time, and it doesn't really move backwards. It's just an illusion because the orbit around the sun is shorter than ours, so it kind of passes the Earth a couple of times a year. And so looking up in the sky, it looks like it moves backwards, but it's an illusion. It still does have a big effect. And because Mercury rules transportation, rules communication, rules also the nervous system, the breath, the lungs, it has an impact on us. And usually people see that impact on our communication network, computers, where we have trouble with the internet, have trouble with sending messages. It's also miscommunication happen a lot during this time. So it's very frustrating, or it can be very frustrating, especially because we want to push forward, right? And Mercury kind of teaches us. So what happens with the planets, or what happens in the sky? I keep telling that to people. I really like that, the thought that it's a message for us. It's something that we can learn. And so it's a little teaching, like those are teachings. So the teachings of Mercury retrograde are to slow down, take a moment to process, and then you can again move forward. And because that's something that we don't like to do, we like to move forward, push forward all the time, it gets frustrating, right? Because Mercury kind of, stops us if we don't. So the clue, or the way to work with Mercury retrograde is to slow down. And when we do that, things start to be less frustrating, or things are going to be less frustrating now. And then we feel that, that's like one of the astrological events that everybody feels, or is most likely to be felt, or easiest to be felt, because most of us work with computers or any type of electronics or communication, and most of us want to push forward and feel when we get that stop, right? But I was talking to people, and I was also thinking, to myself, because I always talk about it. I'm mindful about Mercury retrograde. I try not to start new things or launch things during this time. It's always in the back of my head. And so this time I was like, what if, because people had told me, and I thought, yeah, well, that has some truth to it, that if we think about things, we attract those things, right? And so if we think about Mercury retrograde being, in this moment, we attract all the things going wrong. That could be one way. The other way that I like more is that if we know it, we can be more mindful, and then we can we can make sure that bad things don't happen. Like let me give you an example. Don't sign contract. They say don't sign new contracts during this time. And honestly, I did sign a very big, very important contract during this time. But the clue is the answer is not to not sign it. I mean, avoid it if you can, but if you have to, or if it's, for other reasons better to do it during this time, just make sure you triple read, proofread everything. And so that's what I did. And I actually did find like some things in there that could have caused some trouble later down the line. And in my opinion, I was able to, just make sure that it didn't happen. But anyway, so this time around, I decided I'm just not gonna pay attention to Mercury retrograde. I'm just gonna pretend it's not happening. It's not there. I'm not gonna say, oh, Mercury is in retrograde. I'm not gonna think about it. I'm just not going to talk about it, not going to think about it. And so I did. And I wanted to share with you what my experience was with it. So I first, days in, maybe a week in, and it was about 3 weeks, right? First part of it, I was like, yeah, it's nothing happened. Or looking back, and I was really able, which was surprising to me. I was really able to forget about it, but I was also very busy with all the things. But looking back, so I didn't think about it during, the time, or, during that time, but like in retrospective, the first week, nothing, it was all good. Nothing happened. And then starting, I think week-ish 2, or maybe 8-9 days in, a big thing happened where a big mess. It was just a big mess. I had ordered curtains, and the whole thing went wrong in all ways. I signed it. I had to go back to re-sign it. I and actually I had to go back in after Mercury retrograde because of that. And that's a lot of times what happens is that things happen during Mercury retrograde, and then after Mercury retrograde in the shade, which is, a couple of days after the Mercury retrograde, we kind of have to go back and clean up the things that went wrong. And so this whole mess happened, and it sounds like not a big thing, but it was actually a big thing because, it was quite a drive, and, I lost many hours because of that. And just because of, multiple people doing wrong things on the computer, forgetting to hit send, forgetting to save things. Actually, I do have another story about someone that I know who was writing a book, and I'm just thinking about that right now, who wrote a book, for some reason didn't save it, and the whole book was gone. And so he had to restart it, and he had to restart it in the Mercury retrograde shade. So after Mercury retrograde. So anyways, in my case, I ordered those curtains. I had to, it was quite a drive. We'd put it all in there. It didn't go through. It landed somewhere in the wrong place. There were 3 or 4 people involved that didn't put it correctly in the system. And then I wasn't sure. They asked me about measures, and I gave them the measures, and then they explained like how you measure, and I didn't listen. So that's the other thing. We don't listen. I didn't listen. Then the next day I was like, oh, I put it in wrong because I think this person said this and this. So I went back, I put in a different number. Then I asked again, and then this person tells me how to measure. And then I was like, oh no, that was still right. So they had to change it. So then this person put it into the system, but something went wrong, which, nobody knows what exactly went wrong. So on different ends, and started on my ends, the mess, because I didn't listen. I had to go back and then listen to what they said. I also wasn't able to call. That was a whole other thing. I had to, go there, drive there. And so then turned out it was correct. They had to put it in again, cancel the other order, and then that's where a mistake happened, where that nobody knows how it happened. Then the whole order went into limbo somewhere. And after, when Mercury retrograde ended, they realized that something went wrong, still didn't know what. I had to go back. We had to, fix it. Nobody knew exactly where it had landed. We kind of sorted it out, and I think now it should be fixed. But it was a whole mess because I didn't listen in that moment, and then panicked the next day that I had put it in wrong. So that's a whole story about that. It was, it was a big thing. And, you can say that, oh, this could happen any other day, right? Yeah, I agree. It could happen any other day, but I do think that the mistake happened, definitely. I wasn't listening. I was like, my mind wasn't clear, and looking back during this time for many other situations that didn't go wrong but went okay, my mind was just in a blur. And so I think that's to just quit this real quick. And so that's the main thing that happens, is the mind is in a blur. And that's why these things happen. And I really felt like my mind was in a blur. And so, There are some things that went okay still, but yeah, we're more likely to make mistakes because of that. So Mercury retrograde brings the mind into a blur. It also affects the lungs, and I do experience that every time that my lungs, I just feel like it's heavier for me to breathe. It's harder for me to breathe. So I feel that every time. And coming out of Mercury retrograde, I feel like I'm more fresh in my mind. I can breathe better and I can go on with things. And so what I learned about that experience, not talking about it, is actually that it's still happening. It's still happening if we don't talk about it. It's better to be aware of it and with that, be able to not do the mistakes that, like, for example, I did, which wasn't a big thing, but it was very, very frustrating. Really was very frustrating. And so, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you today about. We are also in Gemini season. We started Gemini season. I'm going to talk about in a different podcast a little more what it means and how to work with it. Gemini is, again, the mind, the lungs, the arms, the hands. And so during this time, our mind starts to speed up. We feel like after coming out of Taurus season, which is a little more chill, we feel like more socializing, going out more. If you live in the Western Hemisphere, the weather starts to be really nice and warm. So we go out and we, go to the beach and we meet with people. Summer vacation is starting at some places already and a little later in other places. So it's like very social time, going out and social, and that's the flow of the season. So what I suggest is to just go with that flow of the season, connect with people, community, talk, meet your neighbors, all of that. And then be mindful about your arms. So maybe you want to pick up some arm training, get those summer arms going, some exercises for the arms, the hands, shoulders, and breathing exercises. So I'll leave you with this breathing exercise called mountain breath. And it helps you to calm down the mind, and the mind is connected to Gemini. So that's something to work with during this month. So you take your hand and you bring the other hand to that hand. And so your fingers are the mountains, right? If you see that on the video, you can watch it. Otherwise, I'll try to explain. So each of your finger is the mountain. And then you trace with the other hand, the index finger, you trace the fingers and you breathe with tracing the fingers. So you inhale, you move up the thumb, and then exhale, you move down the thumb and you trace it, you touch it, right? So inhale, you move up, exhale, you move down. Inhale, you move up, exhale, you move down. Inhale, you move up, exhale, you move down. Inhale, you move up, and exhale, you move down. Now, this is pretty quick. Do it in your own pace. Try to do it a little slower. So you move up, inhale the thumb, exhale the thumb. Inhale the index and exhale the index. Inhale the middle finger, exhale the middle finger. Inhale the ring finger, exhale the ring finger. Inhale the pinky and exhale the pinky. And that was it. I hope you have a good day. Stay tuned here. If you do, there's a lot coming your way. I'm working on different projects. I'm still working on my big project. I've been working on it since a year. So it's kind of big thing, my online training about as medical astrology for your sun sign, which is going to launch this year, probably around summer-ish. But I'm also working on recording sound baths, recording yoga nidra. There's going to be a yoga nidra coming out. I'm working on Astro Yoga, teaching Astro Yoga. And if you live in Switzerland, close to Zurich, I am opening up to practice yoga with me. It's on the web page. More information in a free class coming up on May 31st to practice for free with me, free class. And yeah, there are lots of things coming, so stay tuned. There's always more information on my website. Follow me on social media. And I also started doing on social media the moon, the tracing the moon. So the moon moves into a new sign each 2.5-ish days. So 2.5 days, the moon moves into a new sign and it picks up the energy of that sign. So if you follow me on social media, I always have the update where the moon is and exactly when the moon moves into the new sign, the post releases on social media, on Instagram. So if you want to follow that and follow like a moon calendar and moon journey with me, I'm going to talk about that also more in another podcast. But yeah, if you want to follow that, then make sure you follow me on Instagram. All right, my friends, I hope you have a good week and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.